Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. My name is Yakalba from Plaintables Camp in Philly. This lesson is turn in your gold, turn in your cash. To prove that, Revelation 13:15 on down, it's very possible. It is a fact that it's going to happen, that you're going to have to turn in one currency for another, which we believe it's the implant. It's going to be the medium to access your currency. All right, 1933, you had to turn in your gold in exchange for the equivalent in reserve note. So the purpose of a note is because gold and silver is heavy. You have a bill that's the equivalent that a bank holds. All right. Now, modern banking, we have a central bank. All right. So that means the country controls the output of the manufacturing of the money. Now, as we should know that the Federal Reserve, we believe that's not even a government institution. That's a private company. All right. But besides that, let's let this video play, and we'll move on from there.
Okay, in an effort to make sure that we are as well-rounded and educated with your economy as we're talking about, Eric is back from SBC. First of all, I know you're busy, so I appreciate you doing this. I've had people asking me about Gold Confiscation Act back in the 30s, which obviously is not my expertise. If people are asking me about this, is this something they're asking you? Are they asking about this?
This is, for the first time in a long time, we've had more questions about this than ever before. And the funny thing is, so many people never even heard about this through school or anything like that. Unless you really took an economics course, you don't learn about the Confiscation Act of 1933. But it really, in essence, what it was is it was a time frame where we were in the Great Depression. I mean, the Great Crash happened in 29. It wasn't until 33 that we confiscated gold from the public. And all the rules and regulations that came upon this and the way that it changed our entire economic system, this is where that change happened. And so we're now talking about this for the first time in a long time, and it's really interesting the way people are, getting interested.
Why was it passed? What was the reasoning behind it?
Think of it kind of like a quantitative easing 1.0, if you would. We were stuck to a gold standard that limited us from the way that we could print money and create money. So what we did is we confiscated gold only to revalue it and basically raise the money supply, or give us taking away the restrictions from us being able to actually print money the way we wanted to.
Create that fiat currency.
Well, it wasn't fiat yet, but it was what led to us.
Right, because other countries, they would have to have access to, the records of what percentage of gold they actually had. Because if they don't have access to the records, or they would never care whether they actually had the actual, gold available. So they confiscated the money so they could, the gold, so they could actually print more Federal Reserve notes. So it technically was fiat. See, they kind of changed the meaning of it, is because you only had to have 40% of it. Didn't have to have 100%. So I would think, if I give you $1 in gold, that means you have to have, $1 available to give to me from a bill.
Was basically abandoning the gold standard in 71.
Okay, so why is this relevant now? Is there a real concern that it's going to happen again? Is that what people are talking about that time?
All right. So
I don't think that there's a.
All right, so now you know that. All right. So let's go to this executive order. I believe the crash happened in 29. And then they said, you know what? We have to raise money for the central bank. It says Executive Order 6102 is an executive order signed April 5th, 1933 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt forbidding the hoarding of gold coin bullion and gold certificates. So this proves that the central bank is not a strong system, because they need you to participate in the system, or the bank can't exist. That's why they got rid of it, in the 70s. So, we can't depend on, us holding this gold. Right? If they actually had gold, the system wouldn't have collapsed. That may not be true. But, yeah, because if people take the gold out, then the system will collapse. All right. It says the executive order was made under the authority of the Trading with the Enemy Act, as amended. Okay. Let's go down here to what it says. Well, that's what it says. Under executive order, the president issued April 5th, 1933, all persons are required to deliver on or before May 1st. That's the Illuminati Day. That's when they reveal things or their plans come to fruition. That's a real day of that you need to watch. May 1st, May Day, 1933. All gold coin, bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them to a Federal Reserve Bank branch or agency, or to any member bank of the Federal Reserve System. So you have to turn in your gold, and the penalty was, if you don't turn in your gold, $10,000 fine or 10 years imprisonment, or both, as provided in Section 9 of the order. So this is a draconian law that you had to follow. And if you, had your money in the bank, the gold in the bank, it was only to be observed with a bank officer there. All right. So they wanted more. They wanted your gold to increase the value of their system. All right. So in other words, if you don't participate in the system, the company fails. Simple as that. So that's why they ended up getting rid of the gold standard altogether. Now it's just based upon trust and, I guess, force. Because if America's currency isn't backed by gold, then it's the only power they really got is the being a reserve currency, trust, oil, the petrodollar. If it wasn't for that, America would collapse immediately. And they still got the war machine, but yeah, so that reserve for the oil goes away, America is going to lose virtually all its power. All right, it's rationale. Says the stated reason for the order was that hard times caused hoarding of gold, meaning taking your gold out of the bank. Meaning, because you used to be able to go to the bank, give them the note, and get your the Federal Reserve note, and get your gold. So they said. So in other words, if you take your money out the system collapses. Stalling. That's why they did it in the 70s. Got rid of the gold standard. Say no, we're operating on interest and taxes. All right. That's how they stay. That's how the Federal Reserve stays strong. They say, no, we're not going to. Our value is not going to be based on how much gold we have. All right. Stalling economic growth, worsening the depression, as the U.S. then was using a gold standard for currency. All right. And there's the penalty. I went over that already. All right. So the main rationale behind the order was actually to remove the constraint on Federal Reserve, preventing it from increasing the money supply during the Depression. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 required 40% gold backing of Federal Reserve notes that were issued. All right. So now, I don't know what it was before. Before the Federal Reserve Act, maybe you had to have 100%, because banks, always existed in the United States. So, yeah, I'm thinking before 1913, banks had to have 100% of the actual weight of gold to issue a bill or issue a note. But the Federal Reserve Act required 40% backing. All right, so they started to people started to take the money, their gold, out the bank, and that caused, that's one reason why the Federal Reserve System collapsed. All right, people started to take the money out. All right, so let's look at some more reasons. Well, there's some more stuff down here. Exemption were professional arts like jewelry, pretty much jewelry, and people that use the metals, the weight within products. All right, you can see that sign makers, jewelers, dentists, etc. All right, next part. It's more info. It says, hereby I proclaim that. Well, it says, by virtue of the authority vested in me by Section 5B of the Act, it's 1933, October 6, 1917, well, as amended by Section 2. Okay, get on with it. I, as the president, do declare that the national emergency still exists. So they did it in a reason for national emergency. So that's how they're going to implement the implant, because of a national emergency. That the continued private hoarding of gold and silver by subjects of the United States, and didn't the elders always tell us about that? That we're subjects, we're slaves. Now you can see it in writing. That the continued private hoarding, and they call it hoarding, like you having your own gold, because if you live in America, you have to operate under a central banking system. See, the old way, we didn't have a central banking system. If you wanted to buy a product, you came with your weight and you traded the gold, silver, or metal, or whatever was of value for a finished product, a garment, an animal. All right. But when you centralize it, then they can control, issue a bill of the weight, the gold, and they can manipulate it. They don't. According to 1913, they only have to have 40% of the actual bill that they issue. So they issue you $1, they only have to have 40 cents actually in gold. All right. And so they call it hoarding of gold and silver by subjects of the United States, a grave threat to peace. That sounds draconian to me. Equal justice and well-being of the United States, and that appropriate measures must be taken immediately to protect interests of our people. We mean protect the interests of the bank, because you put the United States under the a central bank. All right. Therefore, I hereby proclaim that such gold and silver holdings are prohibited, and that all such coin, bullion, or other possessions of gold and silver be tendered within 14 days to agents. Tendered, I don't know what they mean by tendered. Offer or present. Okay, present. So present formally. Within 14 days to agents of the government for compensation at the official price. So you had to turn in your $40, and you'll get $40 in gold. Now you get the exact equivalent. Remember, they're still functioning on 40% holdings of actual gold. In the legal tender of government, all safe deposit boxes in banks or financial institutions have been sealed. All right, so if you have gold in the safe deposit box, they're sealed. All sales or purchases or movements of such gold and silver are hereby prohibited. That sounds draconian to me. So they basically locking down all the metal so it can't move to raise the value of the Federal Reserve System, Federal Reserve, the worth of it, so they can actually increase the value of, increase the number of dollars they can issue. All right. Now, of course, banking institutions over the world, they get together and they can look at each other's numbers. Now, we can't look at these numbers, all right, but the financial systems around the world can look at each other's numbers. Otherwise, if they couldn't look at the numbers, they could just falsify everything. and say, well, we don't really need your gold because we can just lie and say we have 0% gold, but we're actually issuing you like we have 40% or 100% gold. So they wanted to increase the output of the dollars they could print, so they had to have more, gold. All right, your possession or safe deposit box and store them. Box to store them is known by the government from bank and insurance records. Therefore, your vault box must remain sealed. So it is known. Them is known by the government. So they know how much money you got. So it was all about control. I'm sure some of this was engineered and some of it was natural. In my opinion, and they just took advantage of what was going on. Therefore, your vault box must remain sealed and may be opened in the presence of an agent of the Internal Revenue Service by lawful order of the President of the United States. All right. So I think I got some reasons why the banking depression happened. The banks failed. Let me look at that. Now, this is causes of the Great Depression. Well, let me read Revelation first. It says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and to the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right. Imagine this happening again. Imagine them saying, we have to turn in our FRNs, okay, for this implant. Right. They did it with the gold. You had to turn in your gold for a Federal Reserve note. You were no longer allowed to hold any gold. All right, so great wrath. It's part of the great wrath. Them controlling the money system, and you're implementing that implant, which is going to be the new medium of exchange. That's going to be able to access a database with your money, your currency. It's going to be digital. It's causes of the Great Depression. All right. So one thing I heard was a lot of people invested into the stock market, even putting up their houses as collateral, their mortgages. And then for some reason, the stock price fell, meaning people stopped investing and started to sell back their stock. Sell, buy, sell. Okay, I'm going to sell the stock. Then the next person comes up, I want to sell the stock. Then another person comes up, I want to sell the stock. So the price starts to fall. All right, if you buy into the stock, it goes up. All right, I'm not an expert, so. All right. Now you could say, okay, were these individual people doing this, or is this, a bunch of, groups of, large companies, and say the Rothschilds or whatever, or some other family having a bunch of stock and they're selling it slowly, and then making it fall. Okay, you believe what you want. All right. The result was profound psychological shock and loss of confidence in the economy among both consumers and businesses, according to consumer spending, especially on durable goods. Banking panics and monetary contraction, during which large number of bank customers, fearful of their bank's sovereignty. So you can say, what caused them to fear? Like, was this engineered, or did something happen? So, you know what? I feel more comfortable having a gold instead of having this note. Okay, I don't know. I can say a little of both. It was engineered. Someone wrote of something in the paper, or there was a consensus among a certain neighborhood, and it started to spread like a rumor. So, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing about a war maybe about to break out, and I need to get this gold, hold on to it, because I know that's real money. People back then thunk different. All right. Ironically, the frequent effect of banking panic is to bring about the very crisis that panicked customers aim to protect themselves against. Eventually, Healthy banks can be ruined by large panic, meaning the banks only exist if you put the money in them. So the Federal Reserves only exist because, well, you borrow money from them, and they collect interest. It's a circuit. They exist because they exist. It's a circle. By 1933, 1/5 of the banks in existence in 1930 had failed. 1/5, leading the new Franklin D. Roosevelt administration to declare 4-day bank holiday, later extended by 3 days, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, during which all the country's banks remained closed until they could prove their solvency, the possession of assets, right? Because basically you can't lend out money that you don't have, so you can't issue bills. Well, they were trying to get gold. Well, I'll say attempts to withdraw their deposits in cash. Okay, so they were trying to get cash. Slock it. Simultaneously attempting to withdraw their deposits in cash, so they didn't even have the cash because they didn't have it backed in gold. All right, or they didn't have the cash, whether they had the gold or not. All right, so that's that. So people started to lose faith within the stock and started to start a stock back. So that's one reason. So it dropped 33%. Then you had people running out of banks because they were fearful of the bank's ability to actually, have the ability to pay, and they wanted cash. All right, so the president said, you know what, we got to close the banks because we don't know if we actually have this money that you're asking for. All right, and there's a few other reasons. All right, I have another one here. Roosevelt's Gold Program, 1933. This is the main point. All right. Let me read this real quick. Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, which is the system. You have to be in line with the system. So if the system tells you to get the implant to buy and sell, you have to do that. And the system tells you gotta, you no longer have freedom of religion, or you have to work at a certain place. All right, you have to follow that system. All right, and he calleth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hands or in their foreheads. All right, so remember, the Roman system is a system of oppression, slavery. All right, this is not this is the modern system. This is not going to be a system of fairness. We just got an electronic money now, but everything's fair. Remember, Esau is the devil. Remember 70 AD. All right. Remember the Romans conquering Judah, conquering Judah. Remember the Romans going to war with the Japhites in Europe, in Britannia. All right. That's the image, the Roman system. All right. So if you're not in line with that system, meaning whatever the system tells you to do, you have to do it. All right. You're going to be killed. You're going to be put to death. All right. So remember the ancient Romans. Remember how fierce and how many people they murdered, and lands they stole, iron mines and gold mines they stole to continue their nation. All right. And we got Mark. Yeah, charagma, which is mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as a badge of the followers of the Antichrist. All right. As a badge of servitude. So you're in service. All right. So this is not a system that's coming. That's a fair system. That you're gonna get a fair shake. No, this is service, servitude, slavery. All right. It's not going to be business as usual, and we just got central bank digital currency. No, it's going to be oppression, death. All right. So I had all right. So United States had been on a de facto gold standard since 1830s, all right, and de jure gold standard since 1900. Now you can look up what those mean, the differences. In 1913, the gold standard was built into the framework of the Federal Reserve System. All right, so like I think I mentioned this before. So I believe before 1900, you had a 100% like gold, but when the Federal Reserve System came in, the law required Federal Reserve to hold gold equal to 40% of the value of currency issued, technically termed the Federal Reserve note. But colloquially called the dollar. All right, Federal Reserve note to convert those dollars into gold at a fixed price of $20.67 per ounce of pure gold. All right, so some information on that. So before 1900, before 1913, you had 100% gold was to be reserved in banking systems. Then you had the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank. Now they only have to have 40%. Now we don't even have the gold standard anymore. So some more information. During the financial crisis of 1933 that culminated the banking holiday in March 1933, large quantities of gold flowed out from the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve was in its system since 1913. All right. So money was leaving the Federal Reserve System. All right. Some of this outflow went to individuals and firms in the United States. So they were exchanging cash for their gold. Say, for whatever reason, look, we want our gold. So the less value the Federal Reserve System has, the more likely it's about to collapse. All right. This domestic drain occurred because individuals and firms preferred holding metallic gold to bank deposits or paper currency. All right. Some of the gold flowed to foreign nations. Yeah, so you had gold leaving the United States. So you know what? We have U.S. dollars or Federal Reserve dollars. And you know what? We'd rather have our gold. Give them the dollars. We want our gold. So this is collapsing the system that the Rothschilds put in place. All right? This external drain occurred because foreign investors feared a devaluation of the dollar. Yeah, because of the 40% thing and other factors. But that's pretty much all I read. So because if they start lending out more or not being honest about what was there, that could be devalued. They say 40%. What if they only have like 10%? Then somebody gets wind of it, say, "Well, I can't accept this dollar because I believe it's only 10% gold in their reserve." I can remember all the nations, believed that gold was real money, so they're looking at the gold, and they have the paper. So if they start, being weary about whether the paper is actually worth the gold they have, it's all about trust. So you know what? Let me get my gold and take this paper, this dollar, Federal Reserve this dollar back and give me my gold because I don't trust what y'all doing behind the scenes. All right. When the Federal Reserve Bank of New York could no longer honor its commitment to convert currency to gold, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared a national banking holiday. It no longer could honor its commitment to convert currency to gold. So, all right. So bank holiday. So they didn't have the gold because they had the 40% thing. All right. So I think that was pretty much my lesson. The system is eventually going to ask for your cash this time in exchange for the implant. So in order to convert to the new system, the central bank digital currency or CBDC, there has to be a change. There has to be some type of law implemented. All right. Such as under executive order, the president on or before May 1st, 1933. Remember, May 1st is a appointed day that you need to pay attention to. Something always happens behind the scenes or in front of our eyes. Something major. All gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them to a Federal Reserve Bank branch or agency, or any member of the Federal Reserve System. All persons are required to deliver all gold coin and gold bullion and gold certificates now owned by them to the Federal Reserve. Now owned by them, which is the people. To, meaning give, to the Federal Reserve Bank. All right? And there's a penalty. All right, that's the penalty. So, what's happening now? We have, we say we're moving into a recession. Recession. It says, let me read this first. It says, why do stock prices fall? It says, if more people want to buy a stock, demand, than sell it, supply, then the price moves up. Conversely, if more people want to sell a stock than buy, there would be greater supply than demand. So if everybody sells, then the stock goes down. All right, and that's just what the value of the company. So I don't know how, like, because the value of the stock drops, that mean the company can't operate. I don't know, it seems like a really fictitious system going on there. I don't know, because if all the Apple stock falls, like, I don't want to invest in it no more. Do people stop buying the phones? I don't know. This seems very like the balance is falsified there some way. I don't see the connection too much. Or are they saying, well, because the stock prices are falling, people selling the stock, does that mean that people stop buying the product also? I don't know. I don't think that those two things have to correlate. Proverbs 11:1 says, a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Look up balance. Yeah, ma'azanyam. I mean, scale balance, because when you weigh something, you weigh the money. That's how you get how much it weighs, like gold or silver, or whatever metal or mineral. You weigh it, and then you put a price on what it's worth in exchange for something else. All right. Scales, balances. All right. So what Esau did was he falsified the balance. All right. Made an abomination. Disgusting thing. That's why we say the Federal Reserve System is a demonic, evil organization in which they can falsify the balances very easily. All right. That's why they had to get off the gold standard completely, and now it's just based off it exists because of the petrodollar. All right, that's why the dollar can continue to exist. That's one of the reasons anyway, because the dollar is the Federal Reserve, is the oil reserve currency, and it's what all oil was traded in dollars, or at least most of it. All right, but the Russians, they want their I believe they're trading their gas and oil in rubles. All right. I think we've done a video. I think I've done a video on that. A certain amount is done in rubles, and a certain amount is done in dollars. The ruble is the Russian currency. All right. So a disgusting thing. You only have to have 40% of the gold available to issue $1. So 40 cents available as your $1. That's falsifying the balances. That's disgusting. It's unethical. It says in ethical sense, wickedness. So it's unethical. Relating to moral principles. Yeah. Yeah. Meaning when you falsify the balance, that's considered bad. All right. Or evil. That's the morals of the scriptures. Balances. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Let me get one more scripture. Give me Habakkuk 2:5. All right. Because the main point again is that they're going to eventually it's going to be an executive order to turn in your cash. All right, like in 1933, he said, "Turn in your gold." Habakkuk 2:5 says, "Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he's a proud man. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire is hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto them all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." All right. I'm looking for the thick clay. Well, right there. Let me just get it. Who laddeneth himself in thick clay. Got Ibatyat, which means weights of pledges, heavy debts. Heavy debts. Meaning Federal Reserve System. The people owe this private banks or owe the banks money that they lent out. And so the Federal Reserve, IMF, they lend money out to governments, and the people, well, the government's supposed to pay the Federal Reserve System back, and the debt keeps growing and growing. So they're lending more money out than is being paid back, and the money they create out of nothing. All right, and you can say the creation of the money is equivalent to how powerful the country is. All right, so the more powerful the country, the more money their central bank will put out. All right, the more money their central bank will create that doesn't actually exist, and they trade amongst themselves. It's all fictitious. The evil, disgusting system. All right, so I'll leave that there. Don't forget what happened in 1933. It was illegal to hold no raw gold. You had to turn it in for a Federal Reserve note. Because the more gold they had, they kept up their Federal Reserve System until they eventually got rid of it, I believe, in the 70s. All right, the gold standard. All right. Which I believe, well, after this, you could own gold again, but they just, I don't know if they gave them the money back, or you could exchange the note for the gold again. Or I don't know how many people actually did that, but they did repeal this later. But then they just got rid of the gold standard altogether, and it became even more fictitious system. It's all monopoly money. It's all a big game which they make all the rules up. All right, that's why it can seem confusing, because this is a demonic, evil system. All right, I'll leave that there. Hope you're edified. Shalom.